Thank you very much, Carl. And after all the nasty things I said about blowing out timelines, he's come in 10 seconds under, so we'll look forward to that in Botswana. Okay, next on the program is Mincor Resources, and I know you all know Mincor is a nickel miner. Recently rejoined the ranks of producers at Kambalda, and bear in mind the assets here used to be keystones in what were building assets for what became a mighty Western Australian and then Australian and international mining company, Western Mining. So these assets have gone for some time and they still clearly have far more to give. We're not joined by David in person today, but we are, I'm told, joined by David Southam, presenting remotely from Sydney. So without further ado, I'll pass over to David. All yours, David.
Okay, great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go for it. Okay,
excellent. Look, thanks, Hedley, for the introduction. I will point out right at the start that it's not just some of the older mines that we're talking about here in Kambalda. Mincor has been very successful in making the first discovery in Kambalda in 20 years, and we tied Rio Tinto with their Winu discovery as being recognised as one of the best discoveries in Australia a couple of years ago. But look, first of all, my sincere apologies for not being there in person. I'm extremely disappointed as this was actually the first presentation I gave to investors when joining Mincor 3 years ago. So it has a very special place in my heart, and I know it's a great event that Re Corporate put together. But I'm actually about to head off to the US and London to market Mincor globally. It's the first opportunity really post-COVID from our separate kingdom here in Western Australia, well, where I was in Western Australia, where we were allowed to go out. I'd probably give a plug to Alan Joyce for Qantas, because he certainly knows how to drive margins for airfares at the moment. So maybe there's a tip there. But whilst I'm not there in person, we have the Mincor CFO, Chen, and General Manager of Corporate Development, Kurt, there as well. So please chew their ears off. And also thanks to a few shareholders there who have sent a couple of emails to me over the last few days, and they were acknowledging the performance of Mincor and offering to buy me beers as they had retired, presumably off the back of a Mincor investment. But if they've certainly retired, I'm not interested in a beer from them. I'd be more interested in a Grange, but we'll talk about that at another time. So in preparing for today, I decided, well, let's go back to the future and have a look at the first presentation that I presented just over 3 years ago. And really to give you an idea of the journey of Mincor. I was, I think, 1 month into the role. The market capitalisation was $90 million. Cassini wasn't even a resource. It was a couple of drill hits. We hadn't purchased the Long operation that was still owned by Independence Group. And we had $10 million of cash. And at that point, I sort of asked for the faith of investors there in Queensland to buy into our vision about building an integrated nickel business, but also talked about a structural shift in the EV space. And really, I think a lot of those things have played out. But I did get one thing critically wrong, which I am embarrassed about, which I'll kindly admit. Being in Queensland, I did predict that Queensland would win the State of Origin, and unfortunately they didn't. So I do apologise for that. So where do we sit today then after that 3 years? So we have around a $1.2 billion market cap. So we're up around 12 times from 3 years ago when we presented to shareholders. So hopefully some of you have listened. Cassini, as I said, won the Prospector of the Year award. It's now in reserve. In fact, we've we've produced first ore from that mine. We acquired Long off IGO for the princely sum of $3 million. And I can assure you the return on that capital invested will be significant. We have built our project. We have delivered on some exploration news flow, which I will talk about shortly. We funded ourselves, so we're fully funded, and only used $30 million of debt to build our business. And that is not project finance, that is a corporate revolver and very low cost of capital. With all of that, we've done this in the backdrop of COVID. So when we actually announced the DFS back in March 2020, COVID had just hit. All of our numbers were generated pre-COVID. And then we've also done this, and as Hedley alluded to, with the shortage of labour that I haven't seen in my career. But in the backdrop, on a positive, EV is and electric vehicle batteries and the use of nickel in those batteries. And remember, some of you who are probably driving around in a Tesla there, our product will make its way into the Tesla, and there's about 50 kilos of nickel in a Tesla vehicle. But really pleasingly, for all of us at Mincor, we're going to have a little celebration this month because we've got a cash flow party. For the first time. We'll actually receive cash into the door from our production in May. And let me tell you, after sending out millions of dollars to our suppliers, it'll be nice to get more money in than's coming out. So for me, I would say timing is not just important, it's actually everything. We're coming out with production. We are probably now the only nickel sulfide, independent nickel sulfide producer in Australia, which makes us both also the largest independent nickel sulfide producer in Australia. It's been quite a journey, and I certainly want to acknowledge those shareholders who have supported us with the equity raising, and also take the time to acknowledge the team who have built a project in such a difficult time. Quite importantly is ESG, and we published our first sustainability report last year. Just want to point out a couple of key numbers there. Whilst labour has been difficult to come by, our last sustainability report, we had 100% retention rate of our employees. And that's because, and I think shareholders should be happy with this, that every employee is a shareholder, so they're completely invested in our company. But we'll also be one of the lowest carbon emitters in the globe for nickel. And off the back of that, we've actually had investors out of London and Europe invest into Mincor. So where we sit today, we have 2 producing operations. Look, we are in the commissioning phase and the ramp-up phase. We talked about pre-production capital of around $70 million to build our business, and we're going to be very close to that. But bear in mind, sometimes miners don't give all the information. The key is really what's your peak funding? What does it fully cost you to build? And with us, we had previously guided around $105 million, and we're going to be very close to that. Remember, that was before COVID. I'm going to talk about the golden mile of nickel as well. We are seeing an emerging discovery there at what we call the golden mile. And for those who aren't familiar with it, I'll explain that shortly. So just to remind you where we are, our northern operations, which supplies half of our production. And by the way, when we ramp up to full production, we'll be somewhere between 15 to 18,000 tonnes of nickel in ore, or around 15,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate. Half of it comes from the traditional Kambalda Dome. So that's from the Long and Durkin mine, which we refer to as the northern operations. And bear in mind, in a little 6-kilometre window, nearly 1 million tonnes of nickel have come out. And you'll see why we're pretty excited by that. From a logistics point of view, we are, and for the golfers there in Gold Coast, I know there's a lot of golf courses there. put it in perspective, we're about a driver and a 6 iron away from the Kambalda nickel concentrator, which we use. So logistics very close. And then Cassini down the bottom there, you can see, is about 70 kilometres. So we haul the ore 70 kilometres to the mill, but we're right on the grid, the east-west highway. We're also on grid power, but as I've already mentioned, water, and the rail is right beside us. So infrastructure-rich area. And to Hedley's comments earlier, just remember, throughout the entire Kambalda region, 1.6 million tonnes of nickel has come out of this space. But if actually I just take you back to that slide, one of the things that shocked me when joining Mincor, the amount of exploration dollars put into this space over 10 years by all the companies involved, greenfields exploration was only $15 million, which you're just not going to make a discovery with that small amount of expenditure. And we have proven that if you put drill dollars in, you can make a discovery, and Cassini was testament to that. So we have our customer is BHP. Basically, we deliver the ore, they'll process it for us, and we get paid for the concentrate. It's, to put it simply, there's a few more complexities than that, but the key fact here is that BHP need our nickel concentrate within their integrated system. Without Mincor, BHP will have problems with their own mines. And strategically, it's a very interesting space, the nickel space at the moment. It's been recently termed, for those who watch Netflix miniseries, the Nickel Game of Thrones. There's been a lot of not many players, but a lot of consolidation going on in our space. You look at this flow sheet here on the bottom left of my screen. You've got IGO and Western Areas who are about to merge. The shareholder vote went through the other day. What you can't see here is a bubble of Wyloo Metals or Andrew Forrest, who holds around 14% of Mincor, and IGO, who hold about 7% of Mincor. Well, Wyloo and IGO are now talking about going into joint venture for a downstream processing facility. But at one stage, we had our number one shareholder potentially blocking our number two shareholder of taking over Western Areas. And just prior to that, we had our number one shareholder in a fight with our offtake partner for a nickel asset in Canada, where they kept on bidding each other up for that asset, which Andrew Forrest ultimately purchased in Canada for about $1 billion Aussie. So it's been an interesting space for Mincor. I liken us to the United Nations peacekeeping force. We have been Johnny in the middle. But the key here is that if IGO and Western Areas decide to build their own processing facility from that merger with Wyloo, BHP don't have any third-party feed to come in to blend with their Leinster and Mount Keith concentrate. If they don't have Mincor concentrate, it takes away from their Mount Keith operation. Ours is a premium blending product. And by the way, all of our ground in Kambalda, we're also surrounded by BHP, but I like to think that we've actually got the best ground. So look, very interesting space, but if you follow the flow sheet, our concentrate goes through to a smelter, which goes through to a nickel refinery, where nickel sulfate is produced for the battery market, and the public contracts at the moment are Tesla and Toyota. So there you can see that we've actually delivered ore to the concentrator. You can see some flotation. One of the key things I really want to point out, our DFS assumption for the nickel price was Aussie $22,500 per tonne. Looking at it this morning before talking to you, it's sitting at over $40,000 per tonne. So the difference of nearly $20,000, if you just times that by the nickel that we're to produce and assume we don't find one extra tonne of nickel, which would be an incorrect assumption, but if you assume that, there's about $1 billion of additional revenue without any cost that comes into our business over a simple 5-year mine life. But our mine life will be much greater than that. So you can see the leverage that we have, and our market capitalisation alone is around 1.2. So we are mining on multiple fronts, and what I want to point out here is this Golden Mile. Now, hopefully you can see my mouse. I'm looking at the bottom image, and what we've been able to build is in this window here. IGO used to own this side of the equation, so the left side, Mincor the right, and they could never get together to explore in between. We came along and purchased long off IGO for $3 million, got about 30,000 tonnes of nickel, fully ventilated, electrified mine, dewatered. And what we've built is we've now connected these ore bodies with an incline. Durkin North is a brand new ore body. Long has been around for a while. But our theory was that as we went along here and built this incline of about 1.2 kilometres that we've called the Golden Mile, so yes, it's not quite a mile, but it's a good brand name, we would explore. And we've had 2 underground diamond drill rigs, and we've come out with some recent announcements of intersections such as nearly 4 metres at 8% nickel. This, we appear to have found another super high-grade pod, and pod probably undercores what this potentially can be. And we've named it, look, it's called the LNO4, and we will come out with a resource towards the middle of July, and this will be stage 1. But our theory of these ore bodies connecting underground looks like it's holding true. And this is where a significant amount of our exploration dollars will go. It's a 550 by 150 space, and I think I'm getting close to time. But what I want to leave you with the message here is that there's lots of nickel. Next year at Cassini, we'll be drilling Cassini as well, because we actually stopped drilling when we decided to launch with the feasibility study. Have a look at those grades down the bottom when you're getting 12 metres at 5% or 7 metres at 11.5%. That is what nickel geologists dream about. So with that, I will leave it and pass back to you, Hedley. Wish everyone a fantastic conference. Enjoy the entertainment. Make sure you drink all of Red Corporate's beverages tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you